This is why SZA's beats are pure genius. If you want to know how to make alternative R&B like SZA, this is the video for you. But it's not going to be like those other tutorials where they just show you the MIDI without actually trying to teach you what's going on in the MIDI. I'm actually going to show you the theory behind everything and why I play the things that I play. So here are 5 steps that you need to follow to make your sound familiar to SZA. And so by the end of this video, it's all going to seem easy for you. However, if you don't get this first step right, every other step after will just be useless. And that's the idea. So we're in the key of C major, BPM 70, 6/8 time signature instead of the regular 4/4. And our chord progression that I'm going to be playing is going to be 4/1. And if you don't know what I'm saying when I say 4/1, basically this is the number system. This is how musicians can easily understand each other by placing a number to each individual key that's in a scale. For example, the first key will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to the 1. Same goes with your chord, so it's going to be the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to the 1. However, with our main idea, we're going to be playing this with an acoustic guitar. And don't worry if you don't have an acoustic guitar, because I am going to MIDI it out, as you can see right here, so that way you can kind of just convert this to whatever type of instrument that you want to be played. So just like I said before, here is the MIDI version. And if you look closely, here I'm playing the 4, the scale, to the 1, to the 4, to the 1, and then at the very end to the 2, because it sounds good. However, if you look at the top notes are the same regardless of what we're playing on the bottom. And I did this because it just sounds better. It's so much easier to describe this on guitar just because of how the chords are structured on the guitar. It's not anything different, but it's just how the shapes are. It's just really easy to come up with something like this. And then the second bottom to the bottom, these chords are going to be relevant to your actual bottom notes, which all of these are relevant, but in terms of these chords at the 4, these chords right here are the 3 relative to the 4 if the 4 was a 1. Same with right here and right here. All I'm playing is 7 keys relative to what my 1 is. So if I just played it with a keyboard, this is what's gonna look like. Okay, so this is what our 4 is gonna look like, and then our 1 is gonna look like this. And then our 2. And also, if you are playing an acoustic guitar and you know you actually want to be talented, here's a trick that can make your acoustic guitar sound better and more wider. Okay, if you look right here, I have 2 tracks. What you want to do is add another track, and then on your second track, instead of just duplicating what you played on your first, you want to replay what you played, so that way you have like these miniature acoustics and miniature differences in between the 2, so it sounds way more intimate. And then at the side, what you want to do is just pan them out, and this is the result. And by the way, if you want me to fix your chords and just your overall R&B sound, and you're actually really serious about becoming a producer, I do set aside a few 30-minute calls each week so we can go over what you need help with and just break down exactly what's holding you back to get you to that next level. So if you do want one of those spots, click the link in the description, book a call with me. It's completely free. But since we already do know the root note of what we want to play, this makes it a lot easier to know what to play with our bass, and that's step 2, is the bass. However, we're not just gonna play the root note. Even though this bass line is gonna be much more simpler to what I usually do, there's still something that you can still learn from it. Okay, just listen. Again, it's just really simple. All I'm doing is just playing the root note of what I've already had. However, right before I play the root note, I'm leading the note with another key. And this is something that can easily take your bass lines to a better, more interesting turn, which is basically just leading with the key that's right under your root note. And it doesn't matter if it's in the actual scale. So I'm gonna give you an example, okay? The first one was the 4, so I'm just gonna play the 3. And sometimes you can do the 5 if playing the note that's right under your root doesn't really sound right to you, like this, which it can sound good, but what I liked much better was playing the 5 relative to our root note. And then the 3. So we can do this. However, with the bass, you can go out of key for a split moment if you're gonna snap back right into the actual scale. Instead of doing the 1 to the 2, we can just get this one and just play like this. And it's obviously his preference, but I like doing it. Right now, we only have our acoustic guitar and our bass guitar, and that can work. However, instead of just arpeggiating with our acoustic guitar, we can actually add some more chords by adding more instruments. And this leads us to step 3. However, it's not just adding more instruments is the thing that I want you guys to get out of this section. Let's actually go over every single instrument that I've added in this section, and then we'll go ahead and see what I'm talking about. So the electric guitar, which is something that I added right next, sounds like this. Next up is the stage 77. Again, all I'm doing is just playing the chords of what we already established in the first section, which is the idea, which I'm just playing the 4-1, 4-1 to the 2. And then right after, we'll go ahead and go deeper into the chords with each and every instrument. Here's the E piano. Matter of fact, let me just tell you guys right now, okay? So if we actually go ahead and hear, sure, we are playing the root note of each and every chord the same. However, the actual chord itself are different depending on what instrument that I'm playing. And if you don't know what I mean, so when you're playing a chord, you have your regular C, right? Your C major. However, you do have different types of extensions like your 7, your 9, your 11, and your 13. And everything in between. And when you add an extension, of course, each and every chord is going to have a different character to it. So a 7 is going to sound different from a 9. Hear that? And I explain this because when we're going into our guitar, okay, all of these are major 7th chords except for the last one, which is an 11th chord. However, when we go into a Rhodes piano and let everything play, as you can see right here, all that I'm playing are major 9th chords. And then right here, even though this sounds different from this one, they're still the same chord because of how I played it, meaning it's a different inversion. And if you don't know what an inversion is, it's basically when you're taking a note and you're putting it down. And when you're playing piano, you have 3 different types of inversion types, okay? So this is what your regular chord is gonna look like. 1, inversion 2, and then inversion 3. And going with the same exact concept, we can go ahead and look at our next instrument that I've added, which was these pad from the Prophet 5. This is so important because I want to explain to y'all that even though you played a major 9th chord or a major 7th or a major 11th chord with one particular instrument, that doesn't mean you always have to play that exact same chord with a different type of instrument. But this also doesn't mean you have to go out of your way to create a different type of chord with a different instrument. And also, bonus tip, well, not really the bonus because I feel like this is kind of essential, or just an easy way to SZAify your beats, add an arpeggio. And just like how I explained earlier, this has different inversion types. So you can see it right here, it's inversion type 2, 2, and 3. However, this next step is optional, but if you can add it without actually taking away from the artist, which is not really that hard to do, but people don't really know how to do it, this can actually put your beats into the next level. And this is step 4, which is adding a lead. That doesn't do too much. Now, there's 2 ways into doing this without completely destroying your beat for the artist. One being just doing the most simple thing ever, okay? I'm gonna give you an example. This Celeste piano right here, I added the most simplest thing that you can do, okay? On every single chord that you play, you just play one key on top. So it'll all sound like this. The second way of doing it is leading your lead with your chords. I'm gonna explain that, okay? Oftentimes when people make a lead, the lead is kind of just doing its thing on its own. However, if you can make a lead, try making the lead so it's congruent with your chord. So then it'll lead into your chords in some type of way. And obviously I'm going to give you an example because what type of teacher teaches without example? Another keyscape 1, double felt grand. And just adding that layer alone just levels your beat so much. I love it. It's like those little ear candies that you hear. It really goes a long way. However, just doing a loop isn't necessarily doing a real beat, you know what I'm saying? You still got other sections than just your regular loop. And if you're struggling of actually trying to know how to expand your loop to something else, this is step 5, okay? The arrangement. Now, as you can see, I made this full beat. And if you look closely, there's different stuff like right here and right here that I didn't really add for the main part. And this is where sections come in, okay? Instead of just using your 8-bar loop, add another 8-bar section that probably has similar instruments from your original 8 bars, but then you have enough room to add something else. So for example, okay, this bass right here, obviously we made it for the original piece, but I made another 8-bar section just so I can replace it with an actual key bass. This one in particular. And I also just left in the stuff that was from our original 8-bar loop. So like this Celeste right here, Prophet pad, and the ARP. However, another way to like expand your dynamically moving beat for an arrangement is making like another alternative idea from your actual idea. Just like how I did with this another guitar section right here. As you can see, I'm only going to use one layer for this. And yes, the chord progression is still the same. However, the way that I'm playing it is different. And that's what gives it more variety. That's always sounding good, you know what I'm saying? So again, if you want to do different arrangements and stuff like that, take away different stuff, add some new stuff. You don't gotta go too crazy with it, but you know, just make it sound a little bit different. And speaking of making it sound a little bit different, this goes to section number 6, okay? Me personally, I miss having bridges in songs, and that is exactly what I did right here, okay? So Nate, how do you make a bridge? Thank you for asking. Essentially, it's the exact same thing as parts 1 through 5 or 4, part 1 through 4, except with different chords, okay? So instead of doing 1 4, our chord progression is going to be 2 to the 3, 2 3 to 4 3, and everything else is the exact same, like 1 through 4, except for I didn't really add more instruments other than my bass and the 2 leads. So this is the 2 to the 3, and then we're going back to the 2. Bada bing, bada boom. Bridge complete. So with everything all together, with the arrangement and everything, this is what all sounds like. However, there are different types of R&B that SZA enjoys singing on. So if you want to know how to make more of a soulful R&B type of vibe to, you know, have SZA sing on, a type of artist like SZA sing on, click on this video right here. It's a really nice video.